Welcome in to another edition of the AHSAA podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Brooks, and soon we'll be joined by Kyle Parmley from Starnes Media. He covers softball and covers sports. He covers athletics in general all around the Birmingham area, but his niche is covering softball, covering women's sports, and always good to have Kyle on. Me and Kyle have developed a good relationship over the last couple of years, and he does a great job covering high school athletics here in the state. So looking forward to having him on, talking about softball, running down some of the top teams in the state, who are teams in each classification that have a chance to go win it. It's crazy to think that we're already here at the postseason. We got 2 weeks left and it'll be the postseason, both softball and baseball. So it's coming on us quick, and looking forward to having Kyle on, being able to talk about that and just talk some softball here in the state. It's a sport that's grown and is continuing to grow. And, I love softball. I look forward to watching it in the Women's College World Series every year. I look forward to watching high school softball, and it's a great thing. And Kyle, just a phenomenal job of knowing all the names, the teams, and everybody that you need to know about here in the state of Alabama. And then I'll be joined by Barry Dunning Jr. and Coach Phillip Murhpy from McGill-Toolen High School. Barry Dunning just named Mr. Basketball last week. He's two-time Gatorade Boys Basketball Player of the Year now after winning that again this year. They made it to the Final Four in Birmingham, ended up falling to Huffman in what was a fantastic game in the semifinals. So looking forward to having them on. Barry will be heading to Arkansas to continue his basketball career after he graduates here in May, and just had a phenomenal high school career. I got to talk to him when he was a sophomore down there, and everybody was telling me, hey, you better talk to Barry Dunning. He's going to be a guy that you're going to want to, when you look back, you're going to wish that you had talked to him. And we did, and I'm glad that we did, because Barry's turned out to be a great player, number one player in the state. So looking forward to having them on. Kyle Parmley, Coach Phillip Murhpy, and Barry Dunning Jr. coming up here on the AHSAA podcast. I want to welcome in Kyle Parmley from Starnes Media into the AHSAA podcast. And I've gotten to know Kyle a little bit over the last couple of years. We have a mutual friend, Chandler Fullman, who's now the golf coach at Valley High School. And he kind of introduced both of us to each other. And since I met Kyle and have been following him, I've been keeping up with Kyle because he does such a fantastic job of keeping up with sports here in the state of Alabama, but especially on the girls side of thing. Kyle just does a great job of, making sure that a lot of these female athletes get the coverage and get the attention that they deserve here in the state. And so first off, Kyle, just want to thank you for taking the time this morning to jump on and join me here on the AHSAA podcast.
Hey, Caleb, I appreciate you having me. It's good to be here.
Kind of tell me first where your love for sports really came from. When did you know that getting into sports journalism was what you wanted to do? And where did your love for sports and the journalism part of sports journalism really come from?
Yeah, I think just being a sports fan growing up here in the South, you've got Auburn and Alabama football is the big thing. So you obviously get caught up in that early on. And then Braves baseball was always, a big thing in my family. So the two of those things probably got me rolling. And then, at some point, I always tell the story, at some point in high school, my dad sat me down and was like, hey, what do you want to do? What's the plan? And I just kind of thought about it for a minute and said, well, I'd love to find a way to watch sports and get paid for it. And he kind of laughed at me and was like, well, okay, well, you'll figure something else out, I'm sure. But then from there, that just kind of developed into, me trying to figure out how to do that. And that led me into several different things throughout high school and college. And, while I was at UAB, I got a lot of experience in the sports information side of things, and then went through the journalism program at UAB. And not too long after I graduated, I ended up at Starnes Media as the sports editor, and I've been there ever since for, a little over 6 years now. So here we are.
I mean, your story is just like me. Me and my dad were riding down the car one day, and we were listening to a sports radio show, and I just said, Dad, these guys get paid to get on here and talk about sports. And he's like, yeah. And I said, all right, I know what I'm doing one day. I'm about to try to go after this. So it's kind of the same thing, just a love for sports. And I see your love for sports all the time when we run into each other at the Super 7, the finals, keeping up with softball during the year. I mean, is softball your favorite sport now? I mean, like would you say that is your favorite sport?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, 100%.
What is it about softball? Like, when did you start developing love? Because I remember being a kid, I was one that I sat there and watched the Women's College World Series at 8 years old in 2004. I'm an Alabama fan. I was watching Alabama play, and I remember a lot of the girls that played for them at that time and stuff, Charlotte Morgan being on the team. And, when did you really develop the love for softball and really start caring about it? And then when did you kind of go, hey, nobody's really covering this. And so, this is something that I could really get deep into.
Yeah, there was definitely, I would say around the mid 2010s when Auburn got really good. I'd taken a liking to that and was really interested in it. And then once I started working at Starnes that first spring, I guess it would have been the spring of 2016, I really was just kind of trying to figure out, meet everybody, all the spring coaches, figure out what was going on in the spring sports. And I always remember going to Spain Park one afternoon. It was like late February, and just planning to do a team story, meet some people, figure out what was going on, and watch that game and was like, man, what is this? This is awesome. And then it has just grown from there to becoming something that I'm as passionate about and love just following the sport throughout, not just my coverage area, but across the whole state, and the people that you get to meet through it and get to cover and get to know and all that. It's just, man, it's really cool to me.
Who you work for is based out of Birmingham. You cover the Birmingham area a lot, but you do, you get on the road and you go to different places. Where did that idea kind of start from of, hey, let's expand, let's get out of just the Birmingham area and let's go to some different places around the state and see some places that aren't just right here in Birmingham?
Right. And you mentioned it, like my job with Starnes Media is to cover a lot of the Birmingham metro schools, a lot of those over the mountain communities in Birmingham. And over time, especially with the game of softball, you're following these kids and you see them through their school seasons, and then you see them in travel ball in the summer, and then you meet some of their travel teammates, and then you realize then those travel players, they go off and do their own thing at their own schools the following spring, and then you meet some of them and their teammates, and it just all builds off each other. And so the more that I'd gotten connected with the sport and the more people I started to know, then naturally that circle just got bigger and bigger. And so, yeah, even this year, so far this spring, I've probably gone to 4 or 5 high schools that I'd never been to before, just because you struck up a friendship with somebody in that area, and then it went from there. So yeah, even just last night before we recorded this, I was up at Hatton High School watching one of their games. So, I enjoy it because every community has got its own unique little feel to it, and yeah, it's just I have a great time with it. I know a lot of people talk about how much I burn up the roads this time of year, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, man, because there's a lot of great people, a lot of great softball, all corners of the state.
If you're like me, I enjoy going to all the different schools. When I was playing, we would play teams and I'd go, I wonder what their place is like. I remember playing Gardendale in high school. I didn't know anything about Gardendale really. And I was like, I wonder what Gardendale is like. I wonder what their school's like. And so it's cool now to get to go and just see these places and see some of the facilities and see, when I went to Winfield, Alabama a couple of years ago and saw their 50-yard indoor football field. And so you would have never thought a 3A school like Winfield would have something like that. And I enjoy going and seeing all that. And we've seen some of these softball programs throughout the state now put together some unreal facilities. And, the first one that pops into my head is the newest one now at Phoenix City High School with what they built down there. And you got to visit that. How incredible is that place for high school softball here in the state of Alabama?
Yeah, what they've done at Central High School in Phoenix City is unbelievable. A handful of years ago when I started going down there, at the time, there's a tweet from me being like, this is the nicest softball facility in the state. And that was before any of the stuff they've done now. They have what I would classify as the first high school softball stadium in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, they got it turfed a couple of years ago, and that was phenomenal. And then in the fall, they finished up a career tech building that runs alongside the softball field. So like, not only is it a new state of the art career tech facility, and believe me, the inside of it is amazing. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff in there that current and future students will benefit from. But then the architect had the vision to say, well, hey, on the other side of it, let's make overhanging stadium seats. And then they, built a new press box. So it is enclosed from, first base all the way to the third base dugout. And it's awesome. So you've seen a handful of schools in the state start to get turf fields, and yeah, it's really, really, really cool to see, schools and programs start to really invest in what they've got going on. And like Central is a great example of that, really putting money and effort into their softball programs to give them, really top-notch things. And yeah, that place down there is pretty awesome.
You're a very big proponent on getting softball moved from Montgomery and getting it somewhere different. We obviously ended up in Choccolocco Park last year and had the first year of that. And, now almost a year later, when you think back on it, just what kind of change did that bring to softball, getting it to a place like Choccolocco Park? And then also, what do you think that also can do for the future? I mean, do you think that some of these teams seeing a facility like Choccolocco will make them go back home and go, hey, we may need to fix up our place a little bit more and make our place even look a little bit nicer?
The state tournament at Choccolocco Park in Oxford last spring surpassed any expectations I even had. Like, I knew it would be great. I mean, I'd been at that park a bunch before then, but getting to see the state tournament there was just, it was an incredible week. It was the first time I really felt like that sport was getting the kind of love that it deserved, being played at a facility that was worthy to host it. There's been plenty of conversations and arguments over the years about, whether Lagoon Park was the right fit for the state softball tournament. And any time that you would bring that up over the last several years, it was always like, well, this place is adequate. And at some point, it was like, but it's just not. You've got, like, I get it. Like, it's a facility that has been around a while. It's hosted a lot of great events. But the fact of the matter is that it hadn't really been updated in 40 years. And like, nobody enjoyed going down there. And like, it wasn't the place that sport really deserved to have its season finish at. Like, the atmosphere is not special at that kind of park. But getting the tournament and having it in Oxford last year, and, not only the stadium is the big thing. I mean, that was awesome to have all the championship games in a stadium that was specifically built for softball. There's no like temporary fences. There's none of that stuff. Like, it is a softball field and stadium. Having it there in that kind of atmosphere was incredible for all 7 classes, 1A through 7A. And then the park on the other end, like with all the pods of fields, that was great too, because they do a great job with that facility. So I just thought that it was such a great step forward for the game in this state to have the tournament there. And there were a lot of naysayers over the past several years of, well, there's not really a perfect place to host a state tournament because of the format and this and that. But there's always going to be things you can improve. But that was a great step forward, and I hope that continues to be a shining example of the progress that the sport has made, and hopefully, steps keep being made in the right direction in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, any girl that I've now talked to here in the spring, where we've talked, I've said, hey, your team made it Choccolocco last year. What was that like? And they're all like, it makes me want to go back. It motivates me to just want to go back and just be there again because of how great it was last year. And I even had one girl tell me, is Coach Love's daughter from Tallahassee. She said at one time she was catching, and she's like, I was sitting back there, and she's like, I probably shouldn't have been doing this, but I was looking around. I was just like, man, this is a beautiful place. Like, we have a pond in the back and a little stream. It was just funny, like, listening to her describe how nice it was and what they were, what it was like being there for them. But it was an awesome experience, and really, really looking forward to them being back there this year. And so now we'll talk about some teams who have a good chance of getting back there this year. And, we'll start with 7A. You cover this team a lot. You've talked with Coach Burt a lot over the years. Hewitt-Trussville, right now, they're kind of like what Thompson is in football until somebody knocks them off. I mean, they're the king of 7A in softball right now.
Yeah, they really are. Taylor Burt's done an incredible job at Hewitt-Trussville. She kind of, took the reins of that program and has only continued to rise. The couple years before she got there, they had started to really see some progress, and she has, only continued that and more. Last year, their team was just, they were almost unbeatable.
Yeah.
And the record proved that. This year, they know they lost a little bit from last year, and they're going to have to work a lot harder to get back to that level. But right now, if you ask me about 7A, Hewitt-Trussville and Fairhope are the two teams that are, standing atop, and I could very easily see both of them matching up in the state championship again. Fairhope did not lose much from a team last year that gave Hewitt one of those 3 losses in that state championship series. So they're both really good. There's a lot of teams that are maybe just a tick below those two right now that have got more than enough capability to beat anybody on a given day. I mean, you look at, there's teams like Austin and Bob Jones who have just some dominant pitching that can shut any offense down. You've got a team like Central. We talked about their stuff earlier. Central's got a really young team that has shown a lot of flashes. They're still working on putting it all together more consistently. And some of the teams in my area, Vestavia, Hoover, Spain Park, those teams they've been kind of beating up on each other so far this year, but they're all, any given day, they're really good and can beat anybody. So there's a lot of teams that are just a tick below, I think, Hewitt and Fairhope right now, but they're all very capable teams, and it should be very interesting because, I think Hewitt and Fairhope could match up in the state championship, but neither one's gonna coast there, I can assure you.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, there's some really good teams in Austin. You mentioned them; they shut out Brew Tech a couple of weeks ago, didn't they? And beat them 1-0, and that's a really, really good win for them, and shows you what you were talking about, the pitching that they have. And when you get towards the end part of the year, that pitching, who you have in the circle, that ends up mattering a lot more at that time of year. So it'll be really interesting. You mentioned Bob Jones, obviously Emma Rolfe up there, heading to Auburn next year. And, do you think that she is the type of girl who can kind of get hot in the circle and carry a Bob Jones to getting to that point at the end of the year?
Yeah, and she's done it the last couple of years, getting into the state tournament and winning some games. And you look at somebody like Emma, that's just dominant. And the thing for Bob Jones is going to be, do they have that secondary arm that can help out? Because it is next to impossible to win a state championship with one arm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could do that some in the past. You can't do that anymore. And that's what makes a team like Austin so intriguing. Like Austin doesn't put up 10 runs a game, but between Kinley Hillary and Katie Bracken, those two pitchers are as good as anybody in the state, and they've got 2 of them. And that's the thing is, a team that's got another arm that can carry you some in the postseason, because, man, you're asking an awful lot of a kid to throw 30 some odd innings over 2 days to win a state championship. That's just that's rough.
A lot.
So yeah, Emma's more than capable of carrying Bob Jones a great deal of that way. But they will need one of their other arms to step up, and they've got a couple that have thrown well at times, and they'll just need to be pitching well on the right day.
Looking at 6A, you got Athens sitting there at number 1. They're 20-2 right now. I've been up to Athens. Their baseball and softball facilities are second to none here in the state. They've got a video board. They've got, it's really, really nice. And they're sitting there at number 1. You got Hartsville sitting there at 23-3, Helena at 18-3. And we know that they're really, really good. And their team that got there last year with a chance. Hazel Green's obviously going to, always be there. Wetumpka's having a really good year this year. When you look at 6A, is it kind of Athens and Hartsville at the top in 6A as well? Or do you think 6A maybe has a few other teams who all could be right there at number 1?
I think 6A could be one of the most entertaining state tournaments to watch, because out of all those teams you just named, plus a couple more, any of them, I mean, I think there's 6 or 7 that could easily look you in the eye and tell you they have a chance to win the state tournament. So I think, so far this year, it's been Athens and Hartselle have been kind of leading the charge right now, and they've both been really impressive. And they faced off once, and that was in the Gulf Shores tournament last week, and they didn't want to show much. They both played their cards close to the vest and didn't show a whole lot. But they're both really, really good. A team like Helena is not getting a whole lot of publicity right now, but they are right there. They took an undefeated Hartselle team and tied them 0-0 at Spain Park's tournament a few weeks back. Helena's really good. You mentioned Wetumpka. They're good.
Yeah.
And then Hazel Green isn't what they were last year, but they're no slouch either. So there's plenty of teams like that. And then you look at Springville, you look at Mortimer Jordan. I mean, there's a handful of 6A teams that are right there on the heels of Athens and Hartselle. And yeah, that 6A tournament, I can't wait for that one.
Looking at 5A, Alexandria sitting there at the top. And, to me, you got Brew Tech sitting at number 4. But I would say, in my opinion, I think Alexandria and Brew Tech are the 2 best teams in 5A right now, in my opinion, when you look at their, makeup of what they have and who they've played so far this year. I mean, Brew Tech's played a really good schedule to be sitting there at 23-1, and they can knock in runs left and right. And then also have the nation leading no-hitting, pitcher with no hitters this year. So, I think they're a team that can be really dangerous. But you look at Alexandria, they've just gotten really consistent in every sport. I mean, you look at boys and girls basketball, football, what they've done, baseball, what they did last year, their softball team being ranked number 1. They're having a great run of athletes, and they're taking advantage of it with a 24-3 softball record right now. Yeah,
I've noticed that Alexandria is killing it in a lot of things right now. But yeah, I do think they're the best team in 5A. Now, kind of similarly to what we talked about with 7A, they've got Riley Gaddis in the circle, but they're going to have to have somebody to help her if they want to win. That's what they ran into last year at the state tournament. They made it through the first day of state, but Riley threw 22 innings, and the next day she came back and she pitched a good game, but they fell just a little bit short. And so that's their thing. They're going to have to find a way to spell her a little bit so that, she's able to pitch beyond that first day of state. And you mentioned Brew Tech. Yeah, they're kind of the team that over the last week or two, I've probably been asked the most about. People are like, where'd they come from? And you mentioned Tanaya Brown in the circle. She's having an unbelievable season. I talked to a couple of the people that are with Austin, who Austin beat them to win the Alex Wilcox tournament in Montgomery. And they were like, this girl's a real deal. Like they felt lucky to scratch a run across against her. So yeah, Brew Tech's really good. And you've got teams like Tallahassee and Satsuma, the reigning champ. They're both really good. And I think, Elmore County's one of those teams that Aubrey Allen is really, really good in the circle. But they're going to have to figure it out around her if they want to make her run. So yeah, I think 5A, you got a handful at the top that are really strong. That Tallahassee, top half of their order is freaking good.
Yeah, and the Baines girl can run. I mean, you're not going to get her out.
Yeah, she's going to AUM and she can absolutely fly, and she's on base every single time. And then you get the middle of that order up there to drive her in, and they got something cooking there.
Looking at 4A, you got Curry sitting at the top at 15-6, Cleveland County at 10-3, White Plains 16-4, North Jackson 12-7, Brooks 12-3. I mean, it seems like 4A is also one of those that is just kind of wide open. There's not really a dominant team there, but I think that you've got about 5 or 6 who are capable of walking away with a blue mat this season.
Yep, nobody's surprised to see Curry near the top. They're good year in and year out, and they're really, really good again. So no surprises there. Cleveland County's got, JC Boozer, who does it all for that team. She strikes out everybody and she hits bombs. She's really good. And then you mentioned a couple of those other teams. One of the Brooks has been a team that just kind of seemingly out of nowhere had a great start to the year. They got started a little later than most people because I think they they had some other sport athletes and they wanted to make sure they were ready to go. And they started off on fire and had a couple of wins that made you kind of pay attention. And they look like a team that is definitely a threat in 4A. They've got two pitchers that are legit, and Abby Herndon and Ellie Partrick are both really good. So they're a team that can make some noise. And yeah, the bottom half of that top 10 looks, they're all names that you see year in, year out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think 4A is pretty wide open.
3A, Mobile Christian sitting there at 32-3. We saw their baseball program win a state championship last year. We know that baseball and softball is a big thing at that school, and they sit there at number 1. Plainview sitting there at 15-0 is one that's interesting to me because, like you said, I think Plainview is one that kind of got started late because they made it to the Final Four in girls basketball and had a lot of girls that were out there doing that. But to go right from the basketball court out to the softball diamond reminds you of Pisgah a little bit, just walking out and just, picking up a bat, and all of a sudden you're sitting there with an undefeated record halfway through the year.
Yep. Yeah, Plainview is one of those teams that they were there last year in that state championship, and they've been there before. Mobile Christian has lit the world on fire so far. Beulah was there last year. Beulah made a really good run in the state tournament last year, and then you got Wicksburg down there. Wicksburg, people in Birmingham don't know much about them, but they've snuck up and beaten a couple of really good teams. I think they beat Vestavia Hills in a tournament early in the year, and that kind of surprised some people. So that team's got some stuff. And then, that Houston Academy team, they lost arguably one of their top hitters she transferred down south off of last year's team, but they swing it. They've got Axe Milanowski in the middle of their lineup, and she's going to Auburn. And Brea Hodges can throw it too. So that Houston Academy team is a dangerous one. They won a couple games in state last year and thought they could have gone a little further. So they're a team to look out for as well. So 3A there's a handful of very, very good teams in 3A.
Moving down to 2A, you saw one of the top 2A teams in the state last night. As you mentioned at the early part of this, you visited Hatton. They're sitting there at number 2 at 18-9 behind Pisgah. Pisgah's number 1. They're sitting there at 8-4. But I think they're in a similar boat that Hewitt's in. While they didn't win it last year, until somebody shows that they can consistently knock off Pisgah, they're just going to get ranked number 1 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, in 2A, you've got Pisgah and Orange Beach played in the state championship last year, and Orange Beach won it on a walk-off homer in the extra innings. It was awesome.
Crazy. It was a great game.
Both of them are really good again. And the cool thing about Pisgah, Orange Beach, Hatton, you may not be very impressed with their records at the end of the year, and that's for good reason. It's because you see all those teams in the big tournaments play in the 6 and 7A schools, and they're competitive in those games. They don't win them all. They know when they run up against some of those top teams that some days they're just going to be outmanned, but they know good and well that helps them down the road, especially once they get into area play and into postseason play. So there's some really good teams in 2A as well. That Hatton team, they're always there. Pisgah and Orange Beach will be there again. Mars Hill, Leroy, GW Long, you look at those names, they're names that are always there. I got to see Leroy a couple weeks ago, and they're a team that they swing it. They may not, have that shutdown pitcher consistently, but they swing it. So I'm really looking forward to 2A. I actually got to catch up with Billy Duncan from Pisgah, I guess a few days ago. And he feels good about his team, like any coach, like, we got to improve so much to get where we want to be. But I think 2A, those few teams are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure for Coach Duncan, it's been interesting this year. His first year not coaching his daughter now for a while. So, that's always, I saw my dad when he did that for the first time once we had gone through. It's different, once you've been coaching your son or daughter, and then all of a sudden they're not on the team anymore. I'm sure it's been interesting for him this year.
Yeah, he told me his Hannah has been in the dugout with him every game since she was 2 years old, and she's a freshman at Wallace State this year. So, definitely an adjustment for Billy, but he's still got a good team.
Looking at 1A, you got Brantley sitting there at 12-5, and they're just a team that they're going to be there every single year. You're going to see Brantley's name, and They're going to always have a chance to win it. Holy Spirit at 15-3. You got Athens Bible sitting there at 10-5, Waterloo at 10-3, Skyline at 5-3. As you mentioned, when you look at some of these lower classifications, it's hard to judge some of these teams off their record because a lot of these teams that are at the top are playing some of the best competition in the state and are playing, schools that are 3-4 times their size.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of these girls play basketball too. So these teams get kind of a later start, especially once the smaller the school you get. But the last several years, Brantley's had just 3 or 4 in that lineup that are just tough to get out, and they've still got a few of them. So Brantley looks really good. Holy Spirit's got a really good arm that she's really carried them so far. So we'll see how that develops. And then Skyline's a team that kind of made a run last year. I don't know how many people really thought they were going to make that run, but they had a really young team last year and kind of opened some eyes making the run that they did at state. And they're off to a really good start again this year. So yeah, we'll see how that unfolds as well.
You wonder for a place like Skyline, how much the winning in girls basketball just kind of transfers over to softball, just the winning mindset, the being used to winning. I mean, you kind of feel like that just transfers over to when they walk out on the softball diamond, they just feel like they're going to go win because they did it so much on the basketball court. Oh,
heck yeah. Like, you like that feeling of coming out on top. So, and those, when you play, 2 and 3 sports, you're already a really good athlete. So that only helps you, moving from one sport to the other.
When you look at it, overall, top to bottom, Max Preps has Hewitt-Trussville as the number 1 team in the whole entire state, 1A through 7A. I mean, would you agree with that? You think Hewitt-Trussville is the best softball team in the whole entire state this year?
Until someone proves us otherwise. I mean, if you ask me today, I would honestly say it's a coin flip between them and Fairhope because of the fact that Fairhope has just got everybody back and they have rolled over everybody they've played so far this year. So both of them are they're incredible teams. So it's it's like you mentioned a couple of times, until somebody shows us that they're not, I'll give them that number 1 badge anytime they want it.
So what kind of are your plans now? I mean, we're getting close. It's crazy to think that we're, 2 weeks really left in the season, and then we'll be getting area tournament started and getting going with the postseason. What's kind of your plans now for the rest of April, and how do you go about covering, the end part of the regular season and then getting into the postseason?
Right. I've got a couple more weeks of pretty much primarily softball, and then once the other spring sports kind of start their playoffs, I'll split some of my time there. But as of now, I know I'll be going up to Florence, not this upcoming weekend, but next weekend for the Northwest Alabama Bash, which is always a really, really good tournament with pretty much any team in North Alabama that feels good about themselves. They're there. And then the week after that, Hoover hosts the Hoover Classic, down this way, which is the same type of deal. Anybody that thinks they're any good comes to it. So I'm looking forward to both of those regular season tournaments to kind of wrap things up. And then, yeah, we'll be, like you mentioned, we're rolling into the home stretch real fast. So yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying as much as I can until we get down towards the end.
I don't know if you're like me, but I feel like basketball is what makes baseball and softball go by so fast in the spring sports, because basketball carries all the way into that first week of March. You get done with that, you got Alabama, Mississippi the next week. So, for us, we're covering that. And then next thing you know, it's like, hey, well, now we only have a month of baseball and softball left and we're getting in the postseason. So it really does fly by. But Kyle, really, really appreciate you taking the time this morning to jump on with me. This is something I'm excited about, starting this AHSAA podcast. I'm looking to have different media members like yourself, athletes, coaches. So anybody that you see having a good week, good year, anything like that, let me know. I'd love to have them on. And again, really, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on with me today.
Yeah, absolutely, Caleb. I enjoyed it. And it's good catching up with you a little bit too.
No doubt, man. You have a good one, and look forward to seeing all your coverage of softball here over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, man.
I want to now welcome in our next guest here on the AHSAA podcast, Coach Phillip Murhpy from McGill-Toolen High School, and your 2022 Gatorade Boys Basketball Player of the Year and your 2022 Mr. Basketball, Barry Dunning Jr., Arkansas commit. And first off, guys, just thank you all for taking the time to jump on this morning and join me here on the AHSAA podcast.
Absolutely.
It's kind of starting with you, Barry. We just named off your accolades: Gatorade Player of the Year, second year in a row, Mr. Basketball. Now you're heading to play at Arkansas, who we just saw make the Elite Eight for the second straight season. How crazy is all this for you? We were just talking about, I remember coming down and talking to you as a sophomore, and everybody was telling me, hey, you better talk to this kid. He's going to be something one day. But to now finally be getting all of this and to get all the attention, to get all the awards and the recognition, how has this last couple of weeks been for you?
Really crazy, unbelievable to say, just putting a lot of hard work in and, every single day and just staying focused, staying ground headed. It was really exciting. I'm blessed about it, but, we just got to keep going.
Coach, for you, getting to coach a kid like Barry over the last couple of years, we all know what he's doing. He's going to Arkansas and he's number one player in the state and all of that. What did you see from him over these last couple of years that showed you why he's the number one player in the state and showed you why he deserves all of this that he's getting right now?
Well, we've always talked about Barry's ceiling. I mean, even when he was, before he was here, when he was in elementary school, you always knew he had the ceiling. And what you've seen throughout his 4 years here in high school is he's continued to climb toward that ceiling, and he's still not even close, which is what is the scary part about him as a player. So to see where he's started and where he's at now, and to see where he's going to be is going to be impressive. And he's put in a lot of work. We've put in a lot of work to get this point, and we've gone through a lot. And just for him to finish it out the way he has, it's really amazing, and it's a great way to cap the journey.
One of the things that was impressive to me in watching Barry play in the times that I've gotten to see him is we've seen guys get to Birmingham that are, highly touted, going to SEC schools, going to places, and, they do all the scoring. They do all, they try to do everything. Barry didn't seem like he really tried to do everything. He just kind of, did what came to him, but he also made it a point to get his teammates involved and to include other people. And how important was that in y'all's team's makeup and y'all getting to where y'all got this year, and the fact that he didn't just try to take over and he didn't just try to be the guy all the time. I mean, he really trusted his teammates and let some of his other teammates make plays that helped y'all win some of the games y'all won this year.
Yeah, well, one of our big things that we've always talked about here, and, when Barry, any kid comes into our program, we talk about we're going to learn how to play the right way. We're going to play the right way. We're not going to play ISO ball. And Barry understood that coming in. We could have gone 1-4 flat and let him put his head down and go. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But we want to teach guys to play the right way, or we really want to get guys to the next level. And when they get there, we would like to think that they're ready to go as soon as they walk on that floor and they understand terminology and the way to play the game the right way. But he's the unselfish player. We've told him from the beginning, we don't have to play that way for you to get your numbers. And you can see by his career stats. I mean, he scored over 2,000 career points. He's all-time leading scorer in school history. He had over 1,000 rebounds in his career. He's an all-time leader there. So you can play the right way, just like you guys have seen, and still get numbers and learn how to play the right way.
Barry, one of the things that I liked in watching you was, when you made passes and made assists and stuff, you almost seemed to enjoy that even more. Like I would see a smile come on your face and just like an excitement of, I know what kind of pass it is. I know what kind, and I'm getting other people involved. Why did you enjoy that so much? What was it about, what is it about passing the ball and about making, helping your teammates make plays? What do you enjoy about that the most?
I mean, just being a complete player, just seeing your teammates get theirs is it's a good feeling. I mean, break bread, seeing your teammates do good and you do good, and seeing the whole thing I guess as a whole do good, just makes me happy. I mean, I guess like Coach said, I can score every time I want. I mean, I'm saying it in the humble way possible, but I mean, we all want to play at the highest level, play organized basketball. I mean, we play high level basketball here, so I mean, just seeing everybody eat's the best thing ever. So I mean, every time I smile, see somebody shoot a three or even get a dunk, everybody be surprised, or I do some type of flashy pass, a crazy pass, and they get a layup, and it's a good feeling. I don't know why, but it's just a good feeling.
I talked to Colin Turner last week from Spain Park, who was one of your teammates at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. Tell me about that experience. He kind of talked about, I said, would you have rather been in Alabama or did you like going to Mississippi? He said, I actually liked the bus ride over there, getting to hang out with all the guys and like making a trip together. And he said y'all really kind of grew close as a team because of that. What did you enjoy the most about the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game? And just what was it like to be a part of that and be one of the few that gets to do that every year?
Really just being with my teammates. I never knew those group of guys have great personalities, and we just so competitive on the floor. And when we had practice, it was like together, like we probably could be the AAU team really, and just being together and enjoying that experience, like eating lunch together, watching the SEC tournament, watching like all the conference tournaments together, saying that they said Arkansas is not gonna win, or shoot, Georgia Tech's not gonna win. I mean, it was just the experience, and that bus ride for sure was where we got really close because it was like a 6 hour, I think it's I believe 5 hour, 6 hour bus ride. So we were just looking at each other. We was like, might as well talk. So we just getting to know each other, like what college we want to go to, and our future aspiration. We just really got close from there. And you saw we beat Mississippi badly. So
yeah, no, yeah, y'all dominate. And that was one of the things I asked Colin too. I said, people kind of have a misconception, that I'll hear people all the time, those guys, they just go play in the game. I'm like, nah, they go take it serious, whether it's football, basketball. Those guys really take it serious. And Colin said, no, it was important. We talked a lot all week about, hey, we know the series is 16-15, and we don't want to be that group that puts the record back at 500 right now.
Yeah, that's true. I say one thing about Colin. Colin was great. I was able to play him in high school though. Colin, real quiet, kind of, how can I say it? Humble guy, laid back guy. When he get on the court, he's mean. I tell you, he's really mean.
Coach, you got to coach your son and throughout his high school career and everything. I played for my dad in high school. I know what it's like. Now that it is, at the end, how fun was it to get to do that? And what was your favorite part about having your son on the team with you over the years?
Man, it's been a journey, and he's I've got 3 sons, so he's the oldest, so kind of learning as we go on the fly. But it's been a blessing. I mean, it's been a blessing just in my career to have my family up, with me every day in the gym. I've got 2 younger children as well, and they get to be here. So just a really great experience. I'm sure it's something as we look back, and I know you said you played for your dad, you look back, and it's probably more special when you look back on it than it is going through it, because, there's struggles with it as well. The coach's son never gets a minute off. It's 24 hours a day, and he's got to ride home with me and sit at the dinner table with me. But special. He's a special young man. He's worked really hard. So it was a great experience, and we're looking forward to the others as well.
When you look at your team this year, you guys were able to accomplish a lot. And, now that we're a couple of weeks removed from the finals and everything, when it's fresh and you get beat at the finals, I'm sure it stings and it's a tough thing. But now that y'all have had a couple of weeks, I kind of want to get both of y'all's perspective on just how y'all felt about this season, what y'all were able to do, and what it was like to be one of the 4 teams that were able to go to Birmingham and play in the finals this year.
You go first.
Yeah, I go first. I tell a lot of people the last year, my junior year, we had a rough year, losing Coach Shelley, and we went through so much adversity. But I say losing that game, state finals, I was sad, but I was kind of happy. I was kind of proud of just my whole team because we came a long way. Like, we really came a long way from to fights and just being like self-centered sometimes, feeling entitled, wanting ours. But, we kind of put all that aside just for the bigger goal, and we got there. A lot of people just can't say they made it to state semifinals. So I'm just proud of my team. Like, I went in no season no other way. With the coaches, my players, like, it was just a great feeling. But I feel like those boys are gonna be good next year, though. They're gonna be all right next
year. Yeah, well, for me, I kind of reiterate what Barry says about last season. We had a difficult season last year, emotionally, physically. It was a tough year, but I kept telling them through last year, I said, this adversity is going to pay off for us. It really is. And here we are at 30-5 with Final Four appearance. Easily could have won it all, but basketball's basketball. It just didn't fall our way. But most wins in school history. Second time Gatorade Player of the Year, Mr. Basketball. I mean, We'll look back on this with fond memories. There's no doubt about it. We're getting ready for our banquet tomorrow night, and I've asked, our guys, our seniors, what are some of their favorite memories, and they've started coming in, emailing them to me, and none of those things that they say that are their favorite memories, none of those things are talking about games. They're talking about locker rooms and bus rides and eating together and doing field trips together and traveling here and there. So we're going to look back and we had a great experience. We had a great group of guys, and we set records in the end.
What's the hardest part about, for you guys in the Mobile schools, it's 4 trips up in order, once we get to the Sweet 16, you got to go to Montgomery twice, then you have to go to Birmingham twice in order to win it. What's the toughest part of that? I mean, that's a lot of miles on the bus and a lot of time, having to go back and forth. And, your fans are a little bit further away than some other people's fans. And so what makes, this for all Mobile schools, in your opinion, Coach, what's the most difficult part of that?
Well, basically just being out of your routine, especially when you go to Birmingham and you play Birmingham schools, those guys are getting home cooked meals, they're sleeping in their own beds, they're going to their own gym and doing, shoot arounds and all that kind of stuff. So for us, logistically, what we do year after year is we travel a lot during the regular season, and we set a routine up trying to prepare them for that, because I don't care what you say, you're at a disadvantage. And we've learned over the years in our trips to the Final Fours that, probably the most important thing is nutrition, trying to eat as clean as you possibly can, especially if you make a run all the way to the finals. You end up staying in Birmingham for, 6 days. And if you're not eating right, by the time you get to the state championship game, your bodies are bogged down. So to me, that's the biggest thing. And then obviously on top of that, the crowd. We had good crowds, but to get crowds to travel 3.5 hours to watch a game sometimes is a disadvantage to those teams, especially if you're playing a Birmingham school.
I mentioned to both of you guys that I did your game against Benjamin Russell. That was one where you guys were down at halftime, and it really kind of felt like that they were in control at one point in the game. And, you guys were heading to the locker room, and I remember seeing y'all, what the students were right there and banging, and, there's all this going on. Tell me what the locker room conversation was like for you guys, and what allowed y'all to come out and really just play as calm as you did, settle down, and really take control of that game and dominate the second half.
I want to say I feel like we performed best under pressure. I feel like because, we trained all summer in the weight room and practice and mentally getting prepared. But the conversation in the locker room was, we're fine. We've been in situations like these. I mean, we played teams going out of town, like going to Huntsville, a lot going to Birmingham. We played these teams, and we played better before. So all we had to do was, make some fixes and go back there in the second half and do what we do, and that's what we did. We see what we could have rebounded better. Offense, we could execute a little bit more. We just had to be calm, and like I said, they counted us out. So we got that little grit from him. We got the grit from Coach Murhpy. So, we come out there, had that grit. We had that determination to win and surprise a lot of people. And we beat them by 12 at the end.
Yeah.
In OT. Yeah.
So, just like Barry said, we spent a lot of time in the off season doing the normal things that you do. We spent a lot of time on mental prep, not melting in the moment. We understand that things come at you, and we talk about things come at you in life, and you're never down. You can always stand back up and keep fighting. And they took some good swings at us in the first half. They caught us off guard. They did. But our mental training came into play for sure at halftime. We had a couple of seniors, actually just step out and say, guys, we're good. We're good. Let's just get back out here and do what we do, just like Barry said. And they did. They went out and got back in that game in the second half. And I got to say, Benjamin Russell's student section was fantastic. That was a great moment. It's a great memory going underneath them. That was a really cool moment for our players and for our program.
You got to follow that up with a dominant victory against Spanish Fort. And how sweet was that for you? I mean, I know that's a little bit of a rivalry down there. I mean, how sweet was it to get to beat Spanish Fort to head to Birmingham?
It was a good feeling. They took us out in the Seoul Regional, and that kind of hurt because our season ended way too early. But, respect to them, respect to their coach, great competitors. Love to play them again one more time. But, we came on top. I felt like we had a chip on our shoulder. I felt like that our goals and aspirations a little bit, so.
Yeah, we always respect our opponent. We respect them.
This meeting is being recorded.
They've got they had a really good team, but we had some extra motivation. There was definitely a chip on our shoulder. It was a chip on my shoulder. I was going to make sure that we were going to get that thing done. We went out in a bad way the year before to them at their place, and there was an extra edge for sure. Our guys brought it. I think I was probably a little more animated than usual, but that meant a lot to me, and I was going to make sure that we got that one done, and the guys responded.
Tell me about Huffman. What was it about them that gave y'all some difficulties, and what impressed y'all about their team once the game was done?
I don't know. I would say like how Coach Murphy said, teams in Birmingham have an advantage, being at the gym, staying in their home, sleeping, eating home cooked dinners. And like Coach Murphy said, I mean, we've been on road trips and we did prepare. So I feel like we was mentally prepared. But for some of us, especially for me being varsity for 4 years, that was my first time being on the stage like that. I'll say it was more excitement than nervous, but it kind of was like shell shock, during headlights. But we kind of regrouped, brought back to that Benjamin Russell game, like coming out the half. I mean, we was calm. We knew what we had to do, and we just came back, but fortunately came short. But, I mean, Huffman is a good team. It's a good team. They had very good bigs, very good guards. But, we just came short. But like I said, I'm proud of my guys. We played hard. We played to the end. We gave it all we got.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of respect for Huffman and Coach Ward. Coach Ward and I played against each other in high school. He was at Ramsey and I was at Homewood. And we've kept up over the years. He does a good job. They're tough. They're gritty. The one thing that caught me off guard, honestly, is we had 11 games statted on them, and Christopher Blunt was shooting 17% from behind the arc. He didn't shoot 17%.
He didn't shoot.
So there's a reason, it wasn't like we weren't guarding him out there, but, we were planning for the drive more than for the jump shot. And, hats off to him. In the big moment, he made the big plays and got it done. I was proud of our guys. We dug a hole early, but, fought back and, shoot, with 45 seconds left, we took the lead. And then the next possession, really almost had a steal. Gavin Vesey had a steal, had the ball in his hand basically, and they're kind of able to hold him off from grabbing it. Loose ball situation, and their kid makes a tough play and puts them up, for the final.
Did y'all watch the state championship game? And I've asked, all the other people I've talked to that didn't win. Did y'all watch state championship game, or was it one of those where it's like, I don't know, this is too fresh. I can't tune into this.
I watched it. I just felt like, no disrespect to Huffman and Coleman, but we most definitely would be Coleman. I'm just saying.
Okay, Barry.
Oh, God.
So, I normally don't watch, but I didn't have a bitter taste in my mouth after this loss like I have in years past, maybe. I felt like we did everything we possibly could. I felt like our guys laid it on the line. Like I said, it's basketball. Things have to bounce your way. Timing has to be there. And it didn't happen for us on that day, but I felt like our guys did everything they could possibly do to win that game, and I was at peace when it was over. I hate that the senior groups graduate, and hate to lose them, but man, they couldn't have gone out on a better note.
What did you think about the game, Barry? You said no disrespect, but I feel like we could have gotten there and had success. But watching that game, it was a great game. And then, all of a sudden, Coleman just kind of took over there at the end and really kind of Coach, you talked about your senior class. I felt like Coleman's seniors really showed towards the end part of that game. And did y'all kind of notice the same thing, where just the senior leadership that Coleman had ultimately is what led them to being able to hold up a blue map there at the end?
Yeah, for sure. And their grit and their tenacity. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing that stuck out to me early was they didn't shoot the ball great the entire game if you look at their percentages, but they hit enough early that brought Huffman out. Huffman had to chase them a little bit. And I thought, for me, that was a big deciding factor early in that game, that Huffman wasn't able to pack it in. They had to start chasing them a little bit.
Well, what were your thoughts in watching it, Barry? Just being a guy that had played Huffman, you had been on that stage like you talked about, and then just kind of taking a step back and watching it through the TV screen. What was that like for you?
Like Coach Murhpy said, they hit like a lot of shots early, and then, it's kind of like they shot, like kind of shot back. It was hard for them to make shots, and Huffman did was chasing it. Then, Blunt actually got injured with a twisted ankle, so that was like a big takeaway from their team. But he came back, he did his best, but he
never was the same.
Yeah, he never was the same after that. But like I said, Coleman just got hit early, just like how we played Baker early in the season. In that second game, our second loss of the season, it was just our first loss of the season. Like Baker just dug a hole like really, really early in the game. It's hard for us to get back. We came back, but it was like one of those type of situations that Coleman and Huffman had.
Barry, tell me about Eric Musselman. He's a guy that has really kind of popped up over the last couple of years. I remember watching him at Nevada. When he got the job at Arkansas, I said, this could be dangerous for the rest of the SEC. What is it about Coach Musselman that kids like about him, and what makes him a special coach?
Coach Musselman has passion for the game. He really has passion and love for the game. And, I say a lot of people in my recruitment, Coach Musselman is a family guy. He understands it's like the whole thing is a business, but he understands that, family and on the whole basketball part. And Coach Musselman reminded me of Coach Murhpy a little bit. So that's why, I committed to them. And Coach Musselman is a great guy. He's always in the community, always in the student section, and doing what he can for the University of Arkansas.
When you went on your visit to Arkansas and you walked in that play, we saw 20,000 plus for the Auburn game this year. What was it like to walk into an arena that big and look around and to see how big Bud Walton is?
It was an unbelievable feeling knowing that gym could pack 20,000 fans. And like one day I'll be playing, actually not one day, but actually I'll be playing there in November in the fall. And so, it would be a great experience. And I just love it. And it was a great feeling being in that arena in Bud Walton.
Following them during the NCAA tournament, how big of a fan were you during the NCAA tournament? Were you one of those that was standing up in front of the TV, getting into it during some of these games, or how was it watching them, knowing that you were about to be a part of them?
Oh, most definitely. I had my sunglasses on. I had my shirt. I had the pants. I had everything on, and just following them, make it to Elite Eight again. We eventually fell short. I'll tell you something about Coach Musk. Coach Musk. The saying is, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, I can't put the blame on you. Third time, we gonna be winning that next year. You're not gonna fall short till Elite Eight, and Coach Musk's gonna make sure to get us right and get us prepared to get there. But following on the guys play hard, they play to the best of their ability. And I'll say one thing about our team is, and like really with McGill too, is like, the thing is, I can sleep at night knowing that we gave it all out, gave it all we got. Because at the end of the day, going to sleep and be like, I could have did this or could have did that. That's a hurt feeling. That's be a regret. So, Coach Murhpy told us not to live with regrets. And so, with Coach Musk and his team, we're not going to live with regret. So, we're going to give it all we got. And if we lose, we lose. But if we win, we're going to keep going.
Coach, for you, when did your focus kind of start shifting towards next season? Has your focus started shifting towards next season? Like, when do you kind of start planning, all right, now let's start getting ready for summer. Let's start planning what dates we're going to play, when we're going to practice, that type of stuff.
Yeah, so we officially started back with our guys last week, doing stuff in athletic P and lifting after school. So we've totally shifted to that, and it's fun. It's going to be a challenge. We lost a lot, and we've got some younger guys that they're going to have to rep at the simple things. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the group we've got coming. I think a lot of people are going to think that we're going to be down, and we're not. We're going to coach them up. We're going to be fine. We got talent on this campus and guys that are willing to work their tails off to get it done. So I'm excited about it, and we'll see where it goes.
When you are talking about the summer and things like that, you didn't have a summer a couple of years ago because of COVID and things like that. How much did having a summer this year help this year's team? Being able to do the work that you're able to do in the summer, have all your guys with you. And this for both of y'all, because Barry, you went through it as a player, not having a summer and then having one. Where did having a summer really benefit y'all the most this season, in your opinion?
Well, it was huge. Since we missed the previous summer, and the guys missed playing that previous summer, I loaded up as many games we could play. I think we practiced 2 days last summer. We just loaded up. We had a veteran group too, so we could kind of roll out and do that. But we played 35 games in like 3 weeks. It was insane. And played in some really good events. The live event in Georgia was unbelievable. I think that's kind of where we were like, Arkansas is it. I mean, their whole staff was at every single game there. But, just playing and getting those reps was huge. And for these seniors, just getting them a summer that they could play since they lost the one before.
Like Coach Murhpy said, we did play a lot of games in 3 weeks. And, last summer in COVID, we did what we could, trying to stay like 5 feet apart. And, some we transitioned to the weight room, to the gym, but, it wasn't the same to be able to get into compete and having limited time in the gym. But, this summer, even though we practiced twice, we got a lot of reps in. We get to know each other, feel for each other's games, know what we had to work on. So when we come back in the season, we got first period PE, we know what to work on the little stuff. And it really showed at the end.
Barry, with you, knowing what you're about to go do, you go play SEC basketball, arguably the best conference in the whole entire country. Where do you feel like your game has to improve the most, and what are you going to be working on the most in order to get yourself ready to maybe go out there and play as a freshman next year?
First thing, I always say that, what I learned from here in MAT program is hard work and grit. And I'm going to always keep that with me. And I say the biggest things for skill-wise is being more consistent shooter, kind of always, I'm working on my range and just being a great ball handler, keeping my ball handler right and tight. And don't try to play outside of my game. Don't try to do something that I'm not used to. Like I stay with my game because my game got me this far. And Murhpy helped me realize that, just stick with what you do. And so, just staying true to myself and do what Coach Musk asked me to do, and playing defensively. I always stay locked in defensively because every time I had a good game defensively, offense will always come. So, stick to those points, and I'm gonna be good.
Yeah, he said he wants to work on a jump shot. He only shot 43%.
Yeah. And look, I know you do one thing really well that Coach Musselman's going to like, and that's rebounding the ball. I know he's going to make sure that you rebound the ball, and you're a little bit ahead going in with that with a couple of the 25 rebound games that you put together this year. Coach, for you, where do you feel like Barry has to improve? What would be your assessment on where you feel like he needs to improve and what he needs to work on in order to be ready to play SEC basketball?
In my opinion, if Barry continues to focus on defending and rebounding, he's an elite defender. And we joke about it. We have all season that, he's a typical high school kid. There's times where I have to, re-engage, defensively, Barry. But when he's locked in defensively, there's nothing his opponent can do. And I feel like that's going to be a huge advantage for him as he moves forward. That and his rebounding. When he does those two things, all the other stuff come to him. So, in terms of working on stuff, yeah, he can be more consistent shooting the ball. He can, become a better ball handler. But I truly believe if he focuses on those two things, it's going to get him on the floor early, and it's going to lead to other good things.
Barry, what would be your advice? We're going to have some other kids here. You've got a guy down there, LeBaron Philon, who's going to be getting a lot of attention over the next couple of years. What's your advice to a lot of these kids on how to handle the recruiting process and just how they should treat the whole deal, enjoying it, but also, with what the process and all that type of stuff?
First thing first, always take your time and, always have your support system like my Coach Murhpy, my mom, my dad, my family. I always ask them questions about, how you feel about this, what should I look out for this, and always stick to your day ones and just take your time. Don't let nobody rush you to make your decision because at the end of the day, this is your decision, this is your journey, this is your life, and enjoy it too. Take your visits. I could have took more visits, but I just felt like, Arkansas was a place for me, like it felt like home, and so that's why I committed so early. But just take your time, talk to your support system, pray about it for sure, and just when you feel like the time is right, follow your heart and go where you feel like your heart feel like it's right.
I had Corey LeBounty on a couple of weeks ago. We just mentioned LeBaron Philon and the type of player he is, and you just won 2 Gatorade Boys Basketball Players of the Years, and I asked him, I said, do you think LeBaron's a guy that can repeat the same thing Barry did? Coach, you've gotten to coach against him now. Do you think that he is a player that is capable of doing what we just saw Barry do over the last couple of years?
Oh, there's no doubt, no question. I mean, completely different player than Barry. But yeah, there's no question about it. And I think the biggest takeaway is if you look at the history of South Alabama basketball, I mean, we produce basketball players. I know we got a lot of football guys that come out here, but we got basketball players and not just, Power 5 guys. I mean, we produce a lot of college basketball players down here. And to me, that's the biggest takeaway. But yeah, there's no doubt LeBaron could do it. We're rooting for him. We hope he does it for our city for sure.
What about you, Barry? I mean, you've played against him. I'm sure you've been around him a good bit. I mean, what do you think about him as a player? And do you think that he can, is he capable of doing what you just did, winning 2-time Gatorade Basketball Player of the Year and Mr. Basketball and all those type of things?
Yes, sir, I do believe so. Playing against him, I mean, like I said, I kind of hate when people score on me, when I get locked in. But LeBaron has something special about him. Our game's completely different, but he does have something special about him. But he just stay locked in, stay focused. He can do that and do more.
What are you going to miss the most about high school basketball?
The burritos. Miss Murhpy cooks the best. Every time she cooks a burrito, we always win. Always have a good game. I miss the burritos. For sure. And then
Coach, you have to make some burrito. You have to mail some burritos out to them.
That's my wife now. She makes breakfast burritos for him every game day, and that's his favorite. He calls them burritos.
Well, that's awesome, man. That is the thing. Like you mentioned earlier, Coach. The thing that you miss the most, not the games, it's the camaraderie, it's the locker room, it's the just being around your guys. And, you got to do that for 4 years at the varsity level. And, you had a fantastic career. And Barry, we wish you nothing but luck now as you move on and represent the state, represent your school, and go and play SEC basketball. And you're going to get to do it at one of the best schools and for one of the best programs that we have. So we wish you nothing but luck. And Coach, wish you nothing but luck as well as you prepare your team and try to get them back to Birmingham next year.
Thanks, Caleb.
We will get back to Birmingham.
Barry says we will be back.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right, thanks. You too.
That's going to do it for us today here on the AHSAA podcast. I want to thank Kyle Parmley for taking the time this morning to jump on, talk with me about softball, kind of give us a background on how he got into covering sports. He's now been doing it for over 6 years and continues to get better and better every single year. And he continues to make connections, which allows him to expand his coverage, which makes his coverage even better. So if you're not following Kyle on social media, I suggest going on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, finding Kyle Parmley on there and giving him a follow because he's going to keep you up to date with everything going on with female athletics here in the state of Alabama, especially when it comes to softball. Also want to thank Coach Phillip Murhpy and Barry Dunning Jr. for coming on as well. Coach Murhpy had a great year at McGill with what he did with that group, coaching his son. I meant to say something when he was on, but his son's heading to Huntington to continue playing college basketball, and wish him nothing but luck as he moves on and gets a chance to play at the next level. That's what every kid dreams of, and he's going to get that opportunity. Barry obviously is going to get that opportunity as well, going to Arkansas, playing at an SEC program, and a program that if you really look at the last 2 years, maybe the best SEC basketball program right now. They've made 2 Elite Eights, and while they haven't won the conference or anything, they've gotten hot at the right time, and Coach Musselman's gotten them where they need to be, and Barry's about to get to go play in some really, really fun basketball games. But appreciate both them coming on and joining me here today on the AHSAA podcast. As I mentioned before, you can find this on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the video version. It goes on to YouTube. You can watch it there. Every Tuesday, every Friday, we'll be dropping new episodes. This Thursday, I'm going to have Coach Tim Miller every Tuesday and every Friday, we're dropping episodes. This Friday, I will have Coach Tim Miller from Hazel Green High School, as well as Coach Smelzer and Emma Smith from Vestavia High School, who played in the Girls State Championship there in 7A. Coach Miller obviously won his 5th straight state championship this year in 6A, and looking forward to having both of them on and, talking about the finals, talking about their seasons, and what's kind of coming up for them now as they gear up for the next year, and for Emma Smith as she gears up to go and play college basketball. So that's going to do it for us today, and we'll be back with you on Friday with another edition of the AHSAA podcast.